Hey everybody, Swamper here. Sameolji just put up a video on the player's role. I'm also going to do a video on the player's role. I don't want to call it the player's job because then that seems like work and it's a game, and I think those two things are anathema to each other. So we'll stick with the player's role. It's not exactly a response video because I'm not really going to go through all the points G made and give my version of them. Rather, I'm just going to do my own version of what I think the player's role is, and I might make some references to what G has already done. Okay, so first of all, the player's role. So first thing you have to do is create a character that's interesting. Now, that's the easy part, but your character has to be interesting not just to you, but to other people. One of the jobs of every single person at the table, regardless of what side of the screen they're on, is that they have to be interesting and entertaining. Too many players, particularly newer players to the genre, fall into the mistake of thinking that, oh, I just go there and I just have fun. Well, that's part of it, but that's not the only thing that should be on your mind as a player. If that's true, you are being lazy. In fact, I would maybe even suggest you are being selfish. You can't just have fun and expect everyone else to have their own fun. Everybody's goal at a table in a role-playing game is to make it fun for everyone else. So, create a character that's interesting to you and interesting to others. Know your character. Know him as deeply as you can possibly know him. G makes a good point about knowing your character's mechanics. Absolutely. If you're playing a wizard in a D&D game and you'd say, okay, I want to cast a lightning bolt spell, you should not have to then look up the damage in the book. What does a lightning spell do? What is the range on that? That irritates me. Have all that stuff ready. If you're going to cast that spell, have the information ready so that you can just, and it does not interrupt the narrative. Which is really the goal here. It's not that people are impatient and, we can't give you 30 seconds to look it up. It's that you broke the narrative. You interrupted the movie. So, know your character mechanically, for sure. Beyond that, know him deeply. Know him as much as you can know a fictional character. Not just his background and where he comes from and all that. Those are just raw facts that can apply to any character. They're not really what makes the character unique. It's what pushes and pulls the character, what things interest the character, what goals might that character have, what motivations might they have. Ask yourself questions about the character. If he's called on to help, what will his response be? Why? Why is he choosing to help them or not help them? Define his moral grounds. Where does he stand? What about, look at gray. Look at some of maybe the psychological questions where they give gray questions where you have to make tough decisions. Ask yourself how your character would answer that. Another good question you can ask yourself is that if your character never went on the adventure he's about to embark on, what would he be doing instead? Stay true to your character. Let him make mistakes. If that's what your character would do, then have him do it. I go into detail on this on another one of my videos, so you can reference that if you want. But the point is that if the character you come up with makes all the same decisions that you would in those same situations, you are not role-playing. You are playing you. That's not playing a role. Look back at your character. After you've played the character for a session or 3 or whatever, look back at all the decisions your character has made. And if every one of those decisions is the same decision you would make, then you're not role-playing. There really should be some situations some decisions your character makes where you would say, well, I would do this, but this guy would do this. So if you would do X and your character would do Y, then do Y. Even if you know X is the smarter course of action, the wiser course of action, and is most likely the right course of action, stay true to your character. That is key for role-playing. Stay true to your character. Alright, so that's the basics. Stay in character, speak in character, know your decision, know your character, make decisions that your character would make. And those are the easy parts of role playing. Those are the basic parts of role playing. So let's look at some of the more subtle parts. Sameolji makes reference to doing research to make your character more convincing. To a degree, I agree with this. It's important that your character sounds, if your character is an expert in something, it's important at least that they sound like an expert. If you're playing an astrophysicist in a Traveler game, no one expects you to become an astrophysicist, but look up some terms. Make up technobabble, make up pseudoscience, but try and do it in a way that seems consistent with the intelligence of the character. What you have to remember here is that since we're improvising, you are the writer for the character as well. So you're not the similarity to being an actor only goes so far, because you are also the writer for this character. You write all their lines, you make all their decisions. So if you want the character to seem convincing, then they need to sound convincing, and that can require doing some research, some prep for the character to be that. Actors, you hear about actors doing this all the time. If the actor's going to be playing a doctor role, they'll go and hang out at a hospital for a week or 3 weeks. They're not a doctor in any way, shape, or form from those 3 weeks, but they get a sense of what it's like to be a doctor and some of the terminology the doctor might use and some of the approaches or ways of dealing with situations doctors might do, and that way they can more convincingly play a doctor. Do this for your character. So then there's another part. This is sort of what I call good metagaming. Your character needs to find a way to at least go along with the other PCs. Even if you're playing an evil PC and the other PCs are good guys, you still need to find a reason. Now, I said go along, not necessarily get along. So it doesn't mean that your characters all have to be buddy-buddy. In my opinion, it's a sign of a weak set of role players if they're the get-along gang and they're always one for all and all for one all the time, always agreeing on the same thing, never arguing. That's just so unrealistic. Even if they're your friends, you still sometimes argue with your friends. Think of it like you're working with a group of people, right? You have to work with these people. You have the job you have to get done. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to like them. So that can be reflected in your PC. But you need to at least metagame to the point. You need to be aware as a player, not a character, that your PC needs to go along with these other PCs and vice versa. So it's important to have that in the back of your head while you're doing your role playing and stuff. Don't leave all the creation fun to the GM. Claim your space, add to the world, invent things for yourself. If the GM describes a location, use what the GM has started and add to that location. G refers to social contracts, and this is very important. Make sure this kind of thing is discussed in social contracts. Make sure it's understood among all the players, the limits of player agency allowed in this game, this campaign, and exercise that to the max. Creating can be fun. Adding to the world can be fun. Don't sit there just with blinders on and fingers and ears and expect the GM to fill in all the details. He's going to fill in the scaffolding and a couple of decorations, and you add more, and other players can add more too, and then collectively you've built all these nice things. So that's important as a role player. Another part of the player role metagaming is to help your GM. Even if we're all deeply immersed in our characters, we're all still consciously aware that we're players sitting at a table or on Google Hangouts or whatever, playing a game together. We all know that we're trying to collectively tell a story, even if it's never mentioned so that it interrupts the narrative. We all know that. So help your GM out. If you see some players being quiet, help the GM to engage those players. Come up with reasons for your character to interact with that character. It doesn't necessarily have to be a positive connection, but you want to try and draw that other player into the game, make their PC more active. this again helps to the overall entertainment factor. I'm probably missing some things, but that's everything I can think of at the moment. So there's all the basic parts of your character: staying in character, speaking in character, deciding in character, so on and so forth. And then there's also the other level where you're actively trying to make the game better for everyone else. It's not the GM's role to be the sole provider of fun or entertainment for the group. It's everyone's job equally. The GM will provide some structure and some basic outlines, and the players can fill in the rest. And then the group is always going to tell a better story than any one person is. And it's rewarding as a player to have an effect on the world and the campaign and the scenes and where the story goes beyond just the actions you take. So take full advantage of all those things. I think I've gone on long enough. So hopefully this was helpful to some of you. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.